Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet again another episode of Empire State of Baseball. This is May 6th of the year 2024. We are up to episode number 83, airing on Twitch, X, YouTube, and powered by StreamYard. Well, after a few weeks of a break, we are finally back to a quartet. We're running with some tripods the last couple of weeks, but we got the whole crew back. Looking forward to a great show with all four of you. So, Rich, I'll pass it first to one of the other two who are missing, myself included, the last few weeks. How you doing on this fine Monday evening?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We are holding it down. Empire State of Baseball back. Good to see our quartet full once again. It feels like it's been a long time, and a lot of craziness happening in Mets and Yankees baseball. We definitely see the ebbs and the flow this early on into the season. We've crossed from April into May, so definitely some fun things to talk about when it comes to the Mets and Yankees. Tom, how's it going today?
We are tired. We just got back from a golf trip down to Ocean City, Maryland. We watched zero baseball basically over the last week, so caught some highlights. I was able to tune in on the S app a couple times. Actually tuned in right for the Yankees walk-off on Saturday, Friday, whatever day that was. There is a walk-off, but was pretty unplugged from the world of baseball. So get myself back into it.
Yes, sir. Joe, how you doing?
Doing well. Got to see one of my childhood or teenage favorite bands on Saturday. Went to see Sum 41 at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. I still can't hear well out of my left ear, but
oh damn,
working on that issue. A little close to the stage. So unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much baseball at all this weekend. I just watched on Sunday. But it was an interesting sports weekend. You got one of the closest derby finishes of all time. You got the closest NASCAR finish of all time. I know people aren't big into NASCAR.
What a weekend.
And you got the Mets getting swept. So there you go. That's about what this weekend brought to us.
And yes, talk about getting swept too. I mean, we'll get more into it, but what a frustrating weekend from a Mets standpoint. But a great, fun weekend in general. The weather was getting pretty warm. Actually, this weekend was a little chilly, but in general, the weather's getting warmer in that time of year. So definitely like when the calendar switches to May.
Absolutely. Knicks win. They're on to the next round of the NBA playoff. They're actually in progress right now against the Indiana Pacers. I'm sure there'll be score updates throughout tonight's episode. The Rangers started their second round of the playoffs, up 1-0 in their series against the Carolina Hurricanes. So just a good time for New York sports. The Yankees sweeping their series against the Tigers. The Mets getting swept in their series over the weekend. So we'll get more into it. Into the Empire Express. And let's talk about that lineup, actually, Corey, and then I'll throw it to you on the live stream. So for the lineup for tonight, we do have the Empire Express. It is just our quick dive into New York baseball, the latest notes on the Yanks and Mets. Aaron Judge got ejected over the weekend. We got to talk about that. The first time in his career. That was a whole crazy situation. We'll get into that in a little bit. Then we debut a new segment here on Empire State of Baseball called the Creator Spotlight. And the Creator Spotlight, every week, we'll get more into the details. We're going to highlight a content creator in the community. And tonight, we talk to Hector Beauchamp over at Morning Brew Sports, our good friend Hector, Yanks Morning Brew, Knicks Morning Brew. We'll talk to Hector in a few on the Creator Spotlight. Then we bring back an old segment that's top of the order. We list our top 3 greatest baseball brawls of all time, coming off the heels of that Brewers-Raves brawl this past week between Jose Siri and Abner Abreu. So that was a lot of fun to watch. And baseball brawls are fun. As long as no one's getting seriously hurt.
Does anyone have a more punchable face in Major League Baseball than Siri does? That guy is the most irritating player. I wish he would have gotten just absolutely knocked out. He's so annoying.
We'll get more into the brawl stuff, but yes, I could see your point there with some of those Tampa Bay Rays, let alone Mr. Siri. And I don't know what Joe's doing over there, but hey, we also have our trick of the trade to finish things off. We'll bring it back to our initial game to start off the 2024 season and our season 3 of Empire State of Baseball. But Corey, before I kick it over to you for the live stream, just want to highlight a couple of members of our chat that are are pouring in right now. We have about 20 people. We can increase these numbers up. I know there's a Knicks game going on. There's a Mets game going on. But let's get those numbers up here. We have the 4 Train Express. That's my guy, Mike Mazza. Give him a follow and a subscribe over at 4 Train Express. We got Hitman727X. What's going on? Hitman. We got the Strike Zone. That is NFB. Again, another great channel to give a subscribe to. Mr. Jack Esposito. Hello, guys. Have a great show, which I'm sure you will. And hopefully you do not disappoint, Jack. Damian Serrano over at Yankees Morning Brew and doing the pregame show. Doing some great job over there. Give them a follow at Morning Brew Sports. More on that later on tonight. Corey Favs is in the chat. Look it up. Look at that guy pumping up the numbers. And our guy, Mike Parziali, also chilling in our chat. Corey Favs, I know we have a few people in the house already, but what's the easiest way to tell their friends and family how to join us here on YouTube?
Listen, if the best way to watch us, again, we mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of different ways, but YouTube is definitely our preferred route. Even the few episodes I've missed, I've tuned in a little bit on YouTube. Definitely prefer that in terms of viewing the live stream. So please go ahead. If you're on YouTube, follow us at Empire State of Baseball. We post all our content there. You'll see our shorts. You'll see our full episodes. You'll see clips from episodes. And we hit a big milestone on YouTube today, too. We're now at the 300 subscriber mark. So definitely want to thank all of you who have been tuning in weekly, those of you who are recent viewers, longtime viewers, those of you who have shared that link out with your friends and family. But YouTube is definitely our preferred viewership platform. But again, you can follow us on X. I know a lot of listeners follow us on X and like the convenience of that platform. And Twitch was our old one. We started out with Twitch when we debuted this show back in 2022. So that route is still there for those of you who prefer the Twitch platform.
Yes, sir. And like we mentioned just before, we are going to get into the Empire Express as always. Our latest into New York baseball, and we'll start it off with Joe here. Joe, let's talk New York Mets as always. The New York Metropolitans not coming off a great weekend or week that is really in play. They dropped the 4th place in the division, so let's take it away here with the New York Mets.
Yeah, rough weekend for the Mets, and really a rough stretch ever since coming out of that Braves series for the Mets. Basically, there's been a lack of consistency within the lineup. There's been a little bit of lack of consistency in the pitching rotation. The Mets are leading the league in walks by a mile. It's kind of amazing how good their ERA is, despite the fact that they are walking the ballpark. I think Severino had 7 the other night, which is a career high for him. But the most important thing that came out of it is the fact that the offense is just not clicking. And every time you turn around, it seems that a player is mired in a 1 for 20 slump. And it seems that 2 or 3 players are going through that. At first it was Lindor. Now it's Alonso and McNeil are ice cold. And the Mets are now at a crossroads in the construction of their team where it's been a few years since you've had these players hitting consistently, hit into the back of their baseball card. It's one thing if you hit 250 or 270 over the course of a season, but when you do it, when you're 0 for 15, and then you go 4 for 4 to bump your average up, and then you're 0 for your next 15, that doesn't help the team. And it seems like the Mets now have 3 or 4 players that consistently do that. Alonso right now, listen, Alonso's in a slump. He'll be fine. I'll get to the Met fans trying to dump Pete Alonso in a second, because that pisses me off. Just because the guy slumped for the last 6 games doesn't mean you should ship him off. That torques me off. But the Jeff McNeil's of the world,
Torques you?
I'm sorry.
It torques you off?
Torques me off. I'm gonna go torques me off.
And get the old Merriam-Webster out there, Thomas. I don't know what the hell he just said.
Joe's just too much thinking about his NASCAR. He's getting torqued.
It's too much. It's too much getting on Pete Alonso. All of a sudden, everybody after yesterday is trying to trade Pete Alonso now, and okay if they trade him. Meanwhile, if the Mets actually did trade him, I'm pretty sure they would burn Citi Field to the ground. So let's pause that talk for a second. But the bottom line is the Mets aren't getting consistent production out of their offense right now. Jeff McNeil's not hitting. Nimmo's hot and cold. Nimmo at least is still getting walks. it seems that Francisco Lindor goes 1 for 12 and then he goes 3 for 3 or 3 for 4. So it drives you nuts. You can't build a team like that. You can't build a team when nobody in the lineup gels at the same time. I know it's easier said than done, but that we can't. The Mets aren't going to go anywhere other than 500 if this is what's going to happen the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, the offense right now really is the bigger issue with this team because the pitching, for the most part, outside of the Friday game where Quintana gave up a lot of runs, they lost that game, I think 10-8 was the final. The pitching, for the most part, hasn't been that bad. The pitching's been pretty decent. The offense just is lacking consistency across the board. And when you have four guys in your offensive core, and that's Francisco Lindor, who's been fine. I know he was our bull of the week or the 2 weeks in our last Strike Exchange segment. I expect he's going to be in the top 5 of bulls when we do it again next week. He's been fine. He really woke up after a really poor first 2 weeks. But the rest of the guys, Brandon Nimmo, he got off to a really slow start. It looks like he's turning the corner now. He's hitting 286 in his last 7, so you'll take that. Hope to see those trends continue. But Alonso and McNeil really in a slump right now. I'm more worried about McNeil because McNeil, when he was at his best, I mean, this was a guy who could win a batting title. He did win a batting title. He was a line drive gap hitter, and I have no idea what happened to him. He's hitting 192 this year, 228 in his last 192 in his last 7, 228 in his last 15. And he just seems like a slap hitter that every time weak contact to the right side of the infield for outs, he's not putting the ball in the gaps like he's known for. So I don't know what's happening to McNeil. Alonso, again, I'm not as worried about because we know this is the type of hitter he is. He can go out there and hit 5 home runs in a week. He could also go out there and be 0 for the week. And that's what he's doing right now. 1 for his last 26 at bats. So definitely not the thing with Alonso. But to Joe's point, too, I was a bit shocked to see the numbers in the trading of Alonso. Listen, I know there's a whole argument there. The contract, is he worth as much as a Freeman or Olsen? No, from just a pure financial standpoint. But the fact that almost 50% of Mets fans were ready to trade Pete Alonso definitely caught me off guard. Because if you go back just a month ago, Alonso actually started the season pretty well, and we were all screaming for them to extend him. So definitely turned on him pretty quickly. I still hope, I hope he's a Met for life. He's going to get out of this slump. I'm not worried about it. He's still going to give you 40 home runs. He's going to be around 100 RBIs. So he's going to produce. The only worry for me with Alonso is the contract and how long that's going to linger into the offseason, knowing he's a Boris client. That's a whole conversation for another day. But Alonso is a big part of this team. I think he'll be fine. I'm just more worried about McNeil, man, because this was a guy who McNeil used to be like a catalyst for this team. He was up there at one point leading off. He was in the 2 hole. He was like the 5 or 6 hitter a little bit. And in 2022, when that team won 101 games, he was such a big part of that team. So I don't know what happened to him. I hope he wakes up. But this offense and the lack of consistency, and of course, the one day they score 8 runs, they give up 10. They couldn't have spread out those runs over the games where they lost by 1 or 2 runs. But, that's baseball.
Let's talk Alonso a little bit, because those numbers also really shock me. I don't understand how Mets fans could want to get rid of a guy like Pete Alonso, a homegrown guy. I know you said he's not Freddie Freeman or not Matt Olson. If you look at his numbers, he's at this point of his career, he's just as good as Matt Olson was at that point of his career. Freddie Freeman, I think, is a different level player, especially with the glove and hitting also for a higher average. But if you look at what Matt Olson did pre-Atlanta, the numbers are very similar. Granted, he had to hit in the absolute dump that is the Oakland Coliseum. But if I know people think that first basemen aren't, don't have a ton of value. Oh, it's a position that grows on trees. You can easily get power from that position. The Yankees haven't had a legit full season power bat from that position since Mark Teixeira. Voit had flashes. Rizzo has been okay at times. He's been hurt a lot. Pete Alonso is a top 5 first baseman in the league. He's a top 5 power hitter in the league.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you don't want to keep him now. What I said on our Twitter thread earlier today is, if I'm Steve Cohen, I say, hey, here's the offer I think you whatever you deserve, 8 for 200 or whatever that number is, if it's less than that. And then you tell Pete and Scott Boras, you go out and get a better offer and you bring it to me and I will sign it. And that is any offer you bring, I sign. So go ahead and find a better one, because you got to keep him in Queens.
It's going to be an interesting topic of conversation. And I know one that is going to be a theme throughout the 2024 season. And I just wanted to pull up this bright spot for the New York Mets. Christian Scott, who made his debut over the weekend, looked good in his debut start. Scott, in 6 2/3, allowed just 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts for the young pitcher and Christian Scott. What's the book on the young Scott here, Joe and Corey?
Yeah, Scott's a control first guy. He's not, by today's standards, a flamethrower. He's not a 101 guy. That's not who he is. He is a control pitcher. He's got an excellent strikeout to walk ratio. And listen, I mean, that guy the other day pitched a wonderful game, and we had a side-by-side. There was a side-by-side on Twitter on his windup versus Zach Wheeler's windup. They're almost identical. He really is kind of a combination of what Wheeler was when he came up and kind of what I think DeGrom was when he came up, where he's almost a 2-pitch pitcher. They say he has 4 pitches, but he barely uses his 4th. And the sweeper / slider kind of have the same action, depending on how he throws it. I think the Mets are looking at him as a potential top of the rotation guy in the coming years. We got a long way to go, but it was a very, very impressive start the other day. 6 2/3, 6 strikeouts, 1 run, 1 walk. This is the first guy I feel the Mets have been excited for since the Big 5 came up.
Oh yeah.
And those obviously are all gone right now. But McGill was never like this. Peterson probably had a little hype, but this is the first guy where I think Mets fans and the Mets themselves are saying, no, this guy has in short order put himself in a position to be considered one of the top of the rotation pieces for the next 5-10 years, whatever the Mets feel that he's going to be.
Yep.
And my advice to Scott is do what got you here. Don't chase the velocity. We don't need you throwing 101. Do what you're 95, 96 with that 88 drop off sweeper / slider. That's what I want Scott to be. I think that's what the Mets want him to be. And hopefully we can go from there. But he looked good in his debut, despite the Mets giving him the DeGrom treatment by only scoring 1 run.
Yep, 100%. And for those of you who followed us on the spaces on Twitter back in the offseason, we were in February and March, I mentioned his name a couple of times as a guy I want to keep my eye on. And the excitement in the organization about Scott over the last 6 months has been incredible. He was part of the first draft class of the Steve Cohen regime back in 2021. I know it's a different GM, obviously, now, but the Steve Cohen era, he was a part of that first draft class. And he has absolutely soared from a guy never in consideration for top 100. He went all the way up to 62 now on someone's list for the top 100. So it just goes to show a lot of excitement for Scott, and hope to see it continue.
Very good stuff. Christian Scott, we'll pay close attention to him. Before we flip to the Yankee side of the house there, Thomas, quick couple of shout outs here as more people are pouring in. Jacob Petruzzi is in the building. What's going on, Jacob? How's everything going there? We got Donnie Clark, another supporter of the show and various streams. Aaron Rodgers is in the building. A lot of respect for Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Nithin Ramataj over the NR Sports Show. Shout out to Nithin and all the events he helps host over at the Woodbridge Brewing Company. We got Morning Brew Sports Network in the building. Hector, our guy, we're going to talk to in a few minutes. Futures in the building. And we also have Brad, also known as Bojo, and our guy Ghost as well. Thank you all for joining just in time for a little bit of New York Yankees talk. Thomas, the Yankees are chasing the Orioles now in the AL East. A game back after a lackluster 4-game set against the Orioles, but bounced back strong with a sweep of the Detroit Tigers. Takeaways of the New York Yankees.
I don't like losing 3 of 4 to Baltimore. We talked about that last week. What was the minimum ask? And the ask was a split. And the Yankees didn't get that done. Ironically, right, the game they won was against Corbin Burns. They lost the other games. which is frustrating. And you want to stay right there with them. And also, it's a long season, and the Yankees still can win the division. Obviously, if they don't win the division, they can be a wild card. So it's not the end of the world. Baltimore is going to be a good team. They're going to be in the playoffs and going to be someone that if the Yankees want to make it through the playoffs and get to a World Series, they're going to have to go through them at some point. Beating Detroit over the weekend was nice, though. I think that shows a good team mentality that you just had a very disappointing losing 3 or 4 to a division rival. You lost first place in the division, and then you go home and you handle your business, which is huge. I know we have a little bit of a spotlight on Clay Holmes here, who, again, Yankee fans continue to complain about, but I have continued to say how good he is and how he gets the job done, and you could see it continues. So you got to feel it kind of split right now on the Yankees. They got Houston coming up. I know Houston has been in the dumps. I think they're playing a little bit better as of late, but they're a team that you can't really believe they're dead until they're in the ground. So listen, help throw some dirt on them and help put them in the ground over the next 3 days as you kind of keep going on here and collect the wins.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big set for both teams, and obviously for the Yankees to establish that they have the Astros number, at least in the 2024 season. But for Houston, again, this is a team, even though they are off to one of their worst starts in the last 10 or 15 years, they're still one of the more feared offenses in the league, in the top 3 in the American League in the categories of average on-base percentage and OPS still. So the Astros are still going to be a threat there. It's just the pitching right now. That is the issue. They lost big members of their staff early. They just got back Verlander and Framber Valdez. Ronel Blanco seems to be the biggest name in that rotation right now, who's doing great in the 2024 season. So the Houston Astros aren't dead, but I tell you what, if the Yankees go in and embarrass Houston in this set, the Astros season might be headed into that wrong direction. I mean, it's going to be an interesting set between both teams. Should be a good set. And one thing I'm monitoring that's out of the Yankees and Astros control right now is the weather. The weather does not look good this week in the tri-state area, especially in the Bronx. And how do I know that? Because I'm supposed to go to the game on Thursday. So I keep monitoring the damn weather on Thursday. And, of course, rain all freaking day. And then on Wednesday and on Tuesday. And there's nowhere to shift these games. So that will probably play a factor at some point for this 3-game set. But a big one that is, of course, the Yankees are off today. And then over the weekend, they will be playing the Tampa Bay Rays. Always a great matchup. And that will be on the road in Tropicana. The one stat I wanted to call out here, Thomas, was the same stat I called out last week. On base percentage. The Yankees are still tops in the American League in this category. Oh, gee, I wonder why. I wonder what player is contributing to that high on base percentage for the New York Yankees. But yes, it's been going great. And even though Clay Holmes is the feature guy there, and we talked about him last week for when we were running down our Bulls of the week. How about damn Clay Holmes over there with a 0.00 ERA, looking as good as he's ever had in his career? I mean, you talk about the one game the Yankees caught the Orioles on. What was the highlights of that game? Back-to-back strikeouts of Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman in that 8th inning in Baltimore. I mean, this is a different Clay Holmes here, Thomas.
It's the Clay Holmes. His control has kind of always been his issue. He's a guy who almost has too good of stuff. That sinker is nuclear when he has it going, and sometimes he just cannot find the strike zone. And if you're an opposing batter and you see that, because Clay Holmes is a guy very similar in some ways. I feel like to Chapman. You knew 3 pitches in the Chapman's performance how it was going to go. You knew if he was on, how hard he was throwing, does he have the strike zone? If he was pumping, 101 in the strike zone in the first couple pitches, you knew Chapman was lights out. If you see Holmes being able to get the ball over the plate, and guys are swinging at it early, he always gonna have a good outing. If you see him just dirting it and guys don't even look like they have interest in swinging, it could be a frustrating, could be a tough outing for him. Although he's persevered through all of those this year, so keep it up. He's not gonna have a 0 ERA all year. He's gonna give up some runs. Hey guys, Clay Holmes is gonna blow some saves. That's gonna happen when you're a team that hopefully the Yankees keep winning. They're gonna have a lot of save opportunities. Clay Holmes is gonna blow some. He's gonna give up some home runs, or probably not home runs, frankly, with the way he pitches, but he's gonna give up some doubles and some bleeding singles. He's gonna lose some games, but like I said, he's as good as anyone else this year so far. So just enjoy it. Let's keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest news for the Yankees right now is Aaron Judge looks like he's starting to heat up. That was good. They've kind of had the tale of two weeks in 1 week against Baltimore. I think the person who deserves criticism the most out of the Baltimore series is Carlos Rodon. Listen, you're allowed to have a bad game once in a while, but at the end of the day, nobody gives a crap if you beat the Oakland Athletics or the Milwaukee Brewers. They give a crap if you get your doors blown off by the Baltimore Orioles. And for Rodon, that was a bad job the other day. He took them out of that game in a game that they needed to stay close in.
Baltimore's going to blow the doors off some people. That offense is real. It is scary. And you know what? Rodon has been very good this year. They're going to make a lot of good pitchers look bad.
They are, but you gotta keep your team in that game. And he gave up 3 home runs in a blink of an eye. The defense didn't help him. I get that, but when Rodon is supposed to be your number 1 guy right now with Cole out, like you got to keep him in there. Like even you beat Burns, but Burns kept him in the entire game. It's just that was a 2-0 game. So listen, I mean, Rodon's going to be up and down. We know that, but those are the games that you want him to buckle down in versus the other one. Listen, and I agree with you guys. Holmes is good. At this point, you got to ride him as long as you got him. He's got 0 ERA. I know he makes you sweat, but a lot of closers make you sweat. There are very few guys, and in all fairness, Yankee fans are extremely spoiled watching Mariano all those years, and it's hard to understand when you're looking at a closer like Holmes, that he's that guy that you have to trust in the ninth. But I think he's kind of proven at this point that you have to trust him, and he is your closer going forward, no matter what. Simply because he's getting out of it, and that's what good closers do. They keep their pulse under control.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, these two teams, the Orioles and the Yankees, I expect first place to jump many times throughout the season. And you have a lot of other good teams in that division. Never discount the Rays. The Red Sox are actually over 500. Toronto Blue Jays, I know they're the one, they're under 500 in last place right now, but they got some hitters too. I expect that division to go all the way potentially to the last weekend of the season. So a lot more to come. But Rich, I'm going to hand it over to you because we're about to shift to an exciting new segment for today.
Yes, we are. Very excited to get this new segment going, and shout out to our guy Michael Caputo and HO who just joined us as well. Thanks for joining. Just in time for our debut segment here on Empire State of Baseball, what we call the Creator Spotlight. And the Creator Spotlight, for every so often, we're going to have a member of the community, the baseball content creating community, join us here on Empire State of Baseball. We're going to dive a little bit into what they do, talk about their channel, any upcoming events they got coming on. And hell, maybe we have some time. We'll talk a little ball too. So today, I couldn't think of a better way to get this thing going, but with somebody we talked to before via Empire State of Baseball's new Yankees program that's going to be featured on a monthly basis. That's the River Ave Rotation. He was great on the show. He's great every time we're able to get him on. And of course, he does amazing things over with Morning Brew Sports. Of course, he would. He's the founder of the damn thing. And of course, the Yankees Morning Brew and Knicks Morning Brew, which is an exciting time for this man that we're going to bring up here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hector Beauchamp is in the building for the first edition of the Creator Spotlight. Hector, what's going on, sir? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good, Rich. I decided to wear my Knicks hat. I didn't want Joe or Corey to feel outnumbered with the Yankee hat. But no, thank you, Rich, for inviting me on. Appreciate and I love the work that you guys are doing over here. Shout out to Corey, shout out to my guy Tom, and of course my favorite Met fan of all time, my guy Joseph Pugliese. What's up, Joey?
How's it going, Hector? What's going on,
baby?
Man?
Chilling, my guy.
Got your Knicks going right now. They're
yeah, I know.
Heard the offense was a little shaky today.
It's good. It's good.
They're hanging in there.
It's still better than Pete Alonso's batting average this season. So we good.
You're not wrong about that. But listen, I love the Knicks support that you got on the show right now because I got that game cast on my phone right now, side by side, following along. I mean, talk about an emotional first round versus 76ers, man. That was some series.
No, definitely. The most competitive playoff series so far, in my opinion, if you ask me.
Yep, definitely. No doubt.
It's almost a shame for basketball that didn't go to a 7th game, even though it wasn't going to be good for the Knicks going to a 7th game.
Yeah.
But basketball deserved a 7th game out of that series. That's a great series. That's one of the best 6-game series I've watched in a long time.
100%. As Hector has his eyes glued to the game
I'm good.
now.
Sorry.
And at least what I have here on my screen, the Pacers currently have a 2-point lead, 40-38 in the second quarter with about 4 minutes to go here. So we'll be monitoring the game. Of course, we're still New York sports fans at the end of the day. But Hector, let's put the focus on you, sir. Yanks Morning Brew, Brew Sports. Tell us about briefly your story. How'd you get started? What got you into content creation?
Well, people that know me, I started out in the Knicks space as a guy that would just come up into different open panels. I familiarized myself in the Knicks community on Knicks Twitter and on Knicks YouTube. Back in 2020, when everything was locked down, I was in school at the time. I was going to Apex for my electrical degree. School classes got shut down. Uncle Freezy from the Blorence TS channel, I used to always go up on his show. And while I was home, I started figuring out how to start making thumbnails, how to start doing live streams. And I took a shot at it, right? Wasn't 100% in like I am right now. I started working for ADT. I mean, it was a blessing in disguise because I went to school to get my electrical degree, learn how to become an electrician, got a job with ADT. Then I got injured on the job, right? Rich, you and I, we spoke about this, and I'm able to do what I'm doing right now just because I got injured on the job and I'm going through workers' comp. So if it wasn't for my workers' comp and everything that I'm going through, I wouldn't have the money to pay my bills and continue focusing on this. But like you said, I started Morning Brew Sports about a year ago with my business partners, Celso and Phil Porto. I met up with Celso 2 years ago working with the Knights of Degen, which is it was an NFT project in like Web3 and big in fantasy and stuff like that. That's how we met Jerry, Tiki Barber, all of our connections from there. We was doing content specifically for them. They liked it so much. They wanted us to transition until their Twitch stream and start taking over Twitch. That's something I wasn't familiar with. I don't know Twitch. People don't know me from Twitch. I wasn't comfortable with that. Celso wasn't comfortable. So we took a step away from KLD. We took a gamble on ourselves because KLD, money was coming in from them as a salary and stuff. So we took a gamble on ourselves and it paid off. Within the year that we started Morning Brew Sports, we're over 4,200 on the subscribers right now. And it's just been a constant grind. I tell people out there, everybody's going to try to give you advice, right? And your parents, your family, your close friends, they may feel like they're coming from a good place telling you, hey, you should focus on this and you need to do this or whatever. And I don't want to discourage them and say, hey, that's not good advice. But at the end of the day, don't take advice from people that are scared to bet on themselves. Why am I going to listen to you? Why I'm going to listen to you when you didn't take the gamble on yourself? So me, Celso, and Phil, we took this gamble. We've been working with Jerry Ferrara for this past year. I've been able to meet a bunch of amazing people in the Knicks and Yankees community. You, Rich, you, Tom, Corey, Joe. I always just want to see everybody win at the end of the day. You know me, Rich. I like bringing up everybody. I don't care if somebody has 2 subscribers on YouTube or 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm the same with everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the YouTube and the social media aspect. When you're growing the podcast, and we're one that we're trying to grow. We're up to 302 on YouTube. We're over 3,000 on Instagram and Twitter. We're working there. It's a slow build. But talk about like when you see those days where you probably first started, you didn't have much traction, and then all of a sudden you start getting it. Like, how encouraging is that? And like, how do you like go through those times where you're thinking you're talking to yourself half the time, and get through that and to the point where you are now, where you have a huge audience, you have a huge subscriber base. Talk about the challenge and how you've gotten around that.
Well, I tell everybody, patience is the key. The algorithm will find you. As long as you're putting out good content, the views will find you. When we first started, I'm not going to lie, it was myself on the screen. And then I had my phone right here with like a burner YouTube account in the chat. Celso was in the chat with 2 of his accounts, one from his computer and one from his cell phone. And it looked like we were literally talking to ourselves, but people would come in and see that there was a conversation. So yeah, you may start off as, I call it a 1-tier Andy or a 2-tier Andy's, having 2-3 people watching you. But when you start growing it and you keep on putting consistent content, those 2 views are going to turn into 20 views watching you at the same time, 30, 40, 50. we was able to, knock on wood, before the season started, 650 people in the chat on YouTube alone. Right now, we average about, with YouTube and Twitter. YouTube is doing something very weird with the algorithm right now. I always tell all you different content creators, let the people in the chat right now, if you see on the bottom side in the chat, there's a little emoji. To rapidly spam that for the creators. YouTube is trying to become the new TikTok. With the TikTok ban going in place, YouTube is switching their algorithm and are trying to become the new TikTok. So it's not just hitting the like and subscribing and watching the videos. You got to interact with that emoji that's right there. So just keep spamming that for all of our content creators, everybody in the community. If you're in another space, please let the people know to start doing that. Help us, get eyes on not just mine, but on the channel that they got all going over here, because they do great work over here. But like you said, Joe, to get back to your question, you're going to start off with 2, 3, 4, 5. Patience is the key. The YouTube algorithm and the wave will find you. Your viewers and your fan base will find you eventually.
If you got if there's some sort of thumbs down emoji, you guys can just spam that when Joe's talking about some kind of
there you go. There you go.
Throw up the thumbs down. Anything like that. Just let's drill Joe with those.
And I always tell people, I'm friends with a lot of people in the community. If Rich, I tell you this all the time. If there's ever a question, reach out to me, right? If I don't know the answer, I'm gonna be honest and tell you I don't know. If it's something that I do know, I don't like gatekeepers. So why would I be a gatekeeper to other people? I always tell people, if you're watching me, drop your channel in the link. I got over 150 moderators in the community, because I just love everybody and I want everybody to grow and I want everybody to support each other. There's enough views, there's enough likes, there's enough subscribe for all of us to eat out here.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I love what you said too, Hector, about just trusting the algorithm and just continue to put out the good content, because firsthand, we could speak to it too a little bit. Instagram, that was a platform that we did not put too much effort in. We did post some graphics in, but the last year or so, we've been pumping out some reels, really pumping out more content there. And my favorite moment so far in our 2.5 years or so of doing the podcast was seeing that first reel hit 1 million views. And when you see that milestone come,
sick.
It was so exciting. Love to see it. And now I think we have 4 that hit 1 million. So definitely my favorite moment. I want to talk to you too. Like when you were going through building everything, putting everything together, what was your favorite moment as you were starting to build the Morning Brew brand?
My favorite moment, I would have to say, it was before we started the Morning Brew Sports. The original shows were Yankees Morning Brew and Knicks Morning Brew. That's how this whole thing started, right? I was on another YouTube channel, For the Love of the Game, talking Knicks and doing more of a debate format over there. I couldn't do the late night stuff just because of family obligations. So I had to just do the morning stuff. So I came up with a concept, Yanks Morning Brew, creating my first intro for my show, creating my first set of thumbnails, and being able to package it so I could pitch it, because I had to pitch it to the Knights of Deej. I had to pitch it to their community in order for their community to vote on it. And they liked my pitch, they liked my proposal, and they took a shot with me. So starting Morning Brew, Yankees Morning Brew with them, and then that being able for me to meet my favorite baseball player of all time, right? I'm a Boricua. My favorite player is Bernie Williams. So the Knights of Deej, they had a Tuesday event hosted by Tiki Barber. Tiki Barber had me come through as his guest. I was able to interview and meet Bernie Williams for the first time. That was my first sugar honey iced tea, oh my God moment. That was my first sugar honey iced tea moment, meeting Bernie Williams. And I was shaking, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, I was shaking, but I was able to ask him some questions. And ever since then, I've been able to just build on my confidence. So that literally meeting Bernie Williams was literally my favorite moment being a content creator.
Absolutely, man. And to meet Bernie Williams, definitely one of the coolest spirits. Core 5. I hate when it's core 4, core 5. Bernie was just as important with the other 4 members of the core 4. Damn it! As Hector's trying to, turn the television back on because something just happened.
No. I came to grab this because I actually have my father-in-law, my girlfriend's father, gave me this, and I showed it to Bernie. But this is a signed Bernie Williams autograph baseball.
There you go.
So
there's
this was signed back. Yeah, this was a ball that was signed back in 2002 with the New York Stock Exchange. So I've had this ball.
Actually,
Joe,
Hector, I got one for you. I got
Mariano
Rivera.
Nice.
I actually have 3 of these. I met Mariano when I was interning back at the New York Stock Exchange, and he came to ring the closing bell.
Oh snap! You may know my girlfriend's father. That's the crazy part about it. He worked New York Stock Exchange for years. Yeah, and that's how he met Bertie Williams when they came to ring the bell. Bernie Mariano. Yeah.
We'll have to connect and talk about that. My mom worked for the New York Stock Exchange. She was like at one point one of the highest women up in stock exchange history when she was there. So
nice.
It was great. But it's funny, I met all Yankees when I worked at the New York Stock Exchange. I got one for Don Mattingly. I got one for Joe Torre. But that's
I was
funny.
looking. I feel bad now because I was looking. I had a Mrs. Met bobblehead that I wanted to show you so I could just send to you. Because randomly, I went to the Brooklyn Cyclones game and they was handing out Ahmed Rosario and Mrs. Met bobbleheads. This was literally last year. I'm like, Ahmed Rosario plays for different teams.
A journeyman early into his career. And Hector, I want to call out something that just caught my attention here. It's our chat, because just look at the love here for our guy Hector.
Oh my guys.
And as we scroll through the names here, these are all names that if it wasn't for Hector, these guys wouldn't be here on this current space right now. And there's so much love here in this community. And I think that's where I'm trying to get to. And Fortrain Express also. Hector, salute.
I met a lot of these people. I appreciate that. But I met a lot of these people because of you, Rich, yourself, getting me back on Yankees Twitter, you, Chris N., Future getting me back, because I stepped away from Yankees Twitter because I was tired of getting messages from LI Yankee King about his different trade proposals, right? So I took a step away from Yankees Twitter because of that. But no, meeting you, Rich, you got me back into it. You introduced me to Spaces, you, Jimmy, Chris, and if it wasn't for you, I would have never opened up my Twitter app, and I would never had gotten that message from New York One Sports to come on and talk. So if it wasn't for you, Rich, I would have met Hitman, Ghost, Swifty, and a lot of people in the chat, bro. So thank you, brother. I know you gave me my flowers, but I appreciate you, my guy.
No, I got you, and I appreciate that. And that's what this is all about. And I think this is the premises of the creator spotlight. Every other week or so, to highlight somebody who's doing great work in the community and just bringing people together. I've kind of touched on this in some spaces earlier. I mean, there's a lot of division going on in the world, and obviously I wish it was just as silly as just sports, but there's so much with political tension, racial tension, even religious tension. And I hate touching on all three of those topics, but these spaces give people some semblance of community, and that's what I love about this. And Hector is a beacon for that. You shouted out guys like Jimmy and Chris; they're a beacon for that over at Yankees Pod. A lot of our members of the chat, Boogie, who's starting something on Sunday nights, Hitman, who's been doing some great things, Ghost, Sierra, everybody's been doing a great job pulling people together. And I think that's what it's all about. It's all about growth together. And I want to see this really take off. But Hector, before I let you go, any upcoming projects? What do we got going on? Obviously, you got the live show Tuesday, Thursdays, but take it away. What do you got?
Yeah, well, obviously, Knicks Morning Brew, Yanks Morning Brew, Monday through Friday on the Morning Brew Sports. But this upcoming Wednesday, if you guys are in New York City, we are having our first official Knicks watch party in my neighborhood of Inwood, Dyckman, Washington Heights. A lot of Knicks watch parties. It happens in the middle of the city, downtown. There's nothing for uptown Knicks fans. So we teamed up with a local bar in the neighborhood, the Tyrone Public Brewery, Public House. It is literally right down the block from the A train. We have a signed Jalen Brunson autograph basketball PSA official we're giving away. We got a signed Dante DiVincenzo autograph PSA official jersey. We'll give it away alongside other gifts, memorabilia we are giving away to a lot of people. So this is the flyer. Like I said, you guys can follow me on social medias for that. And as well, next June, the same bar that is doing this, they're putting on a Yankee event, right, at Yankee Stadium with the Yankees. It's a joint venture. It's $120 for the ticket, but it's literally right there. I think it's in right for. I'll get all the details because the owner, we literally just connected this week, and we literally within 24 hours we was able to get this flyer and get this party. So, yeah, it's a lot for the Yankee thing. If you guys could make it out, we'd love to have you out there.
100%.
And Joe and Corey, just you guys, can you guys hear me? Am I good?
Yep, we hear you now.
You were cutting it out, but I think you're good now.
Yep.
And I think because my grandmother called me, that's why. I apologize. But no, like I was saying, Corey and Joe, I'm working on getting you guys so you guys could join our Mets guys. So you can have a conversation with the Mets boys.
Nice.
They had on Evan Roberts a week and a half ago, last week, to talk Mets. That was a great conversation. But we're going to be doing some Mets events as well this year, Joe and Corey. So I'll let you know about the events
Awesome.
at Citi Field so you guys can show up as well.
Yeah, no, sounds like a game plan. Would love to partake.
Sounds good, Hector. Really appreciate it.
Growing together. That's what it's all about. Hector, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah, Tom, Rich, I would love to have you guys on Yanks Morning Brew so we could chop it up as well, just so we can have a Yankee conversation. We'd love to feature you guys and highlight you guys, the work that you guys do. I really love your work you do over here.
100%. Love you, Hector. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
Thanks.
I love you, my guys. Let's go.
Let's go, Nick.
Joe, I love you, but go fuck yourself, Joe. I love you, bro. I love
you.
Oh,
and
man.
there
What
goes the PG rating. All righty. Excellent stuff. A shout out to Hector once again. Give him a follow at all his socials at Morning Brew Sports, YouTube, X, Brew Crew Sports as well. I believe that's on X. He's all over the place. Brew Crew. You can see it on the ticker there before I can say it. I can't say it better than the ticker itself. But speaking of social medias, let's throw it around the room for a little bit of Instagram and X love, starting with our guy Tom. Touch more on Instagram. What do you got?
Absolutely. So we talked a little about Instagram there with Hector, and Corey was talking about all the great work that we're trying to do on our Instagram with the reels, especially getting some real viral ones out there. So if you're not following us already on Instagram, what are you doing? Head over to Empire State of Baseball to give our show a follow. You also can follow us individually. You can follow Corey at Corey Favs, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and myself at T Wospil. Again, we have a bunch of archive graphics, segments. We do polls, memes, reels, all kinds of stuff. Tap it on Instagram. Head over there and give us a follow.
Yeah, and then you can follow us on X as well at ESB Podcast on X. Follow our subsidiary accounts at ESBNYM and at ESBNYY for both Mets and Yankees specified content. You can also follow our individual accounts, Corey at G Gory, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Wospil, all on X. And you can also follow our featured content creator today. And Rich has got the graphic with his exact handles because I don't have them memorized. But it's at Morning Brew Sports or at Brew Crew Sports, at Yankee Brew on Instagram and the 2X accounts as well. So give him a follow, and we really appreciate Hector being on today.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think we're going to get more involved with our community here on ESB. That was awesome that Hector was able to share some time there. But we do have to move on to the rest of our show. And we have this is a jam-packed show. We already come off a great segment there with Hector, and we move on to a recurring bit, an old bit here called Top of the Order, where the four of us are going to list our top threes in various different topics related to baseball, of course. And today, coming off, as I mentioned earlier, the Brewers-Rays brawl from last week. I don't know where it ranks. I don't know if it's going to make a top three, but we're going to go through our top three greatest baseball brawls of all time. So, chat, what's your greatest baseball brawl of all time? We'll find out shortly. But, guys, if you don't mind, I actually will get us kicked off here with our first set here of three. And I'm going to get things kicked off at the number 3 position with the Rangers Blue Jays back in 2016. Rugen Odor, of course, the classic right-handed punch, and Odor still holding it down in baseball. Still's got a job. He's with the Yankees organization, waiting for a major league job to open up for him. And poor Jose Bautista took the brunt of that punch, but I think it was Jose Bautista's pimp job in the previous ALDS that, of course, set that thing off. And so ultimately, who wins in that one? Number 2, Red Sox Yankees. Don Zimmer getting tossed down here by Pedro Martinez following the hit to the back from Kareem Garcia. Crazy moment, and really rejuvenated that rivalry. Well, not rejuvenated, but furthered the rivalry between the Red Sox and Yankees. And speaking of the Yankees, I got the Yankees and the Orioles duking it out in 1998. Armando Benitez with the plunk of the back to Tino Martinez. But, I'm here discussing the whole damn thing. How about we just pull it up, right? I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah, so let's pull up that moment between the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles all the way back in 1998. Take it away, screen. And here we have it. Tino Martinez, of course, taking the punt to the back. The dugouts come unglued here. Fellas, let's analyze this for a little bit here. I mean, this was a fun one.
Really Armando, it says basically like who wants it, and I'm telling you, there's someone who wants it. His name is Daryl Strawberry, and there he is. He's ready. Him, and then there's a boy going to come out of the bullpen named
you don't want to mess with that big man,
Australia. And
Daryl just did a Graham in the dugout.
There's Graham Lloyd.
There we go.
He's coming in.
This is one of the most vicious
coming in.
Like,
and then
down the stairs.
Basically cold cocks him.
Oh my goodness.
Guess all is fair in love and baseball brawls, but he just absolutely blindsides him there.
Yeah.
Anytime you spill into the dugout, you're talking about a goodie. So that's my number one spot there. The Orioles and the Yankees duking it out all the way back in 1998, and we'll go around here and talk about it here. I mean, Brad dropping another big one. Bill Lee versus Yankees third baseman Greg Nettles. But let's move it along. Let's get to another grouping here. And Tom, let's go with yours. Let's see what you got here for your top three.
Yeah, I see. So Bojo in the chat says Nolan Ryan versus a fool who charged him. That fool was former was going to be a future Met and Yankee Robin Ventura. This one isn't, I don't think, the best brawl in the world, but Robin Ventura thought he wanted to smoke, and he did not want to smoke. Nolan Ryan just absolutely bullies him, puts him in a headlock, beats him up, and then you get that iconic picture afterwards of Nolan Ryan with the blood on the jersey, being like, "Yeah, I could still go here." Yeah, that's just, it's always such a funny one to me. Number two, I had that same Yankee Oriole fight that we just talked about. The number one, I have Rich's number two, the Yankee Red Sox from Fenway in the ALCS. And I got to say, there's something that always annoys me about this fight is someone on the Yankees should have killed Pedro. You cannot, and I know there's been arguments, well, what was he supposed to do? Don Zimmer charged him. I don't care. If you are someone on the Yankees, you need to go find Pedro, and you need to put that man in the dirt. He needs, like, you can't allow Pedro to do that. I thought it still bothers me as I see it. We're gonna see it here. Kareem Garcia not happy. Pedro's a little guy. Like, if someone wants to step up to Pedro, if Daryl Strawberry was here at this point, he might have thrown Pedro over the monster.
Yes, absolutely. This is like I love the throwback with the score bug at the top. You know, it brings you real back to memories of Fox and Joe Buck and Tim McCarver. But Corey, what are we seeing here?
I mean, yeah, this is just this just brings me back to middle school, and I remember talking about this in middle school, and really is. I mean, what a game! What a fight!
Talk about
this is something.
Manny and Clemens, talk about two roided up guys going after it. You know,
I don't think Manny wanted whatever Roger was going to have for him there.
Yeah,
and then here's the moment. There it is. I mean,
you got to. I don't know. Whatever Yankee is, someone has to take Pedro out there. I'm sorry. And if this is going to sound terrible, if one of these security guys or someone gets in the way of it, so be it. You cannot let Pedro throw an old man down like that.
If I'm not mistaken, was he 72 at the time when he got thrown down?
And like, listen, I'm not saying he could have just stopped it. It was absolutely ridiculous. Pedro, man, you can't let this happen. But this was the height of the modern day Yankee Red Sox rivalry. It's a height that we're not going to see, I don't think, in baseball ever again, right? I know some of the fights, we don't have a ton of really old fights on our list, but some of the older fights were a lot more brutal. I think, Joe, you have at least one of them on there. And like you said, the one we just happened with Jose Siri, right? It's pretty tame now. They don't get into it as much as they used to. So I don't think we're ever going to see something like that again, let alone in an ALCS, right? That was, I mean, that was in the playoffs, and maybe that's why people didn't want to go after him. But man, I just don't know how you allow that.
Donnie Clark calling out the Veritek A-Rod that happened during the season. A-Rod Veritek again here. We also got the Jose Ramirez, Tim Anderson pick here. We might touch on that one in a little bit, but Joe, let's get into your top three. What do we have here?
Yeah, so I got an unusual one that some baseball fans might not realize, but number three was Nolan Ryan I mean, let's be real. This wasn't really a brawl. This was an absolute mugging in the back of the alley. I mean, you have never seen one player get their ass kicked on a baseball field worse than Robin Ventura did with Nolan Ryan.
By an old man, too. Nolan Ryan was like 45 at the time.
You messed with Texas and you got what you deserved. I mean, that was it. Yankees Orioles. I mean, the vitriol with Armando Benitez and Strawberry was unmatched. But number one, this is the number one. And if anybody says there's another number one, they're wrong, because 17 players were ejected from this game. 17. The Padres had 3 different managers manage this game. Here's Leffers throwing at Pascual Perez, who, by the way, was thrown at on 6 separate occasions in this game. 6 separate occasions Perez was thrown at in this game. This is an absolute brawl. This is a multiple inning brawl. This has gone on. Do you know that the Padres had an injured player, Braves? Bob Horner was injured from the Braves and sitting in the booth analyzing the game. Bob Horner, halfway through the game, who was out with a broken hand, went down to the clubhouse, got dressed, and partook in the brawl while he was on the injured list. I gotta say, wild.
One thing I don't like about this. Look at Joe Torre in there. One thing I really don't like about this, Padres pitcher. Listen, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna throw at a guy, and then he basically just walked away and ran off.
There's a fan.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this would never happen in today's baseball. 1, because more people would stop it, and 2, frankly, the players are too soft to allow this to happen.
12 players ejected for San Diego, 5 for the Braves. Eventually,
I love the fans running down.
And I mean, this is the baseball. I mean, this is a hockey brawl. This is what this is.
This is the baseball equivalent to Malice in the Palace.
Exactly. I mean, this is the granddaddy of brawls, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Well, that was fun. And that was about a 16, 17-minute brawl. Obviously, we don't have the time to view the whole thing. That's why I had to skim it there. But Corey, Favs, let's wrap this thing up with your set here at the top of the order.
Yeah, and I have to say, none of these top that last one. I mean, that last one was just epic. I just gave some bias to the ones I'm just most familiar with, or the ones that really stuck out to me, either watching it live or just hearing about it through the grapevine. So number 3, I know this was on a lot of our lists here at Red Sox Yankees. Again, just brings me back to middle school. Like Tom said, really was the heart of that modern day Yankees Red Sox rivalry. I remember this being all the talk in middle school. So this one definitely stood out to me. Put it number 3. Number 2 at the Mets. And this was almost my number 1. I didn't put it 1 because I wasn't alive to see it happen live and talk about it as it happened. But that Bud Harrelson and Pete Rose fight in the NLCS too. So it's the same type of vibes with the Red Sox and Yankees happening in a big playoff game. Mets did go on to win the series, lost the World Series versus the A's that year. So that got my 2 spot. Every time I was watching a game with my mom and either Bud Harrelson or Pete Rose came up in conversation, she always talked about this fight. So it always stood out to me. And number 1, again, I'm going with this really just for the recency bias, because like Tom said too, you don't really see large-scale fights anymore. You don't really see classic brawls in this day of age. So I remember watching this one, seeing all of the replays, talking about it for days. That next day of work, a lot of baseball fans I work with, we talked about it the whole day. So it really just stood out. And I mean, that sucker punch by Rougned Odor and getting that.
It was not. I take
There it is.
issue with that. That is not a sucker punch. Batista comes in.
Bang.
Yeah, that's a square.
That is the equivalent of, if I know we're trying to keep it PG, but F around and find out. He came in hard. He did not know who he was dealing with. And Rugi absolutely. Yep. There's actually, for a while there's nothing that put a smile on my face more than just looking at the gif of Jose Batista getting punched in the face.
Yeah. That lingered for a long time. And
Oh,
that's why this
man.
one stood out to me as number one, because this one really came out as memes, as GIFs. All of this stuff really started to take
Look
storm
at-
and be part of general conversation. I mean, there was so much
Jose Batista still a
content
little
there.
lost there. Like
Yeah.
Belichick's holding him up. He's still a
Belichick's
little
holding him up. He's not holding him back. He's holding him up. I mean, that's pretty much what you got there. I was hoping for another. I don't know if there's another slow mo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
If the concussion IL was the thing, he would have been put on.
Because you see a lot of the fights, you see a lot of like slapping and pushing. You rarely see someone, and even if you see a punch connect, you don't see a punch connect like that. He got punched in the face.
Oh yeah.
And
Rich, I almost put as my number one, the Brawl in the C division of the JFK League.
Shout out to Just for Kick softball on Staten Island, and still having fights all the way in the worst division of the league. Again, I wanted to throw it around here to the chat. Again, Hitman, Joey Baggs versus Rugi. He has here Donnie Clark, Pedro versus Zimmer, which of course we listed before. Swift, Odor, Batista, A-Rod, Veritek, Ramirez, Tim Anderson. I'd say that's a close one, that Tim Anderson, Jose Ramirez fight.
Yeah.
Benitez versus the 96 Yankees, Gerald Williams versus Pedro, Bill Lee, Greg Nettles, Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura, Veritek, A-Rod, Marichal versus Roseboro, 1965. Brad, you veteran, you of watching baseball games. I'll just put it nicely. And down goes Anderson. Jose Ramirez knocked out Tim Anderson. That was I believe it was Tom Hamilton on the call.
It's the best call of a baseball brawl. I will say, going into that boxing.
This is a good one too. Mexico versus Canada in the WBC brawl as well.
Yeah.
Go for it, Joe. But yes, that's it. Top of the order. That was a lot of fun. So hopefully the video came out clear enough. But it was definitely a fun one to relive some of those greatest baseball brawls of all time. But Thomas, we threw it back. So now it's time for some rollback. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah. So I talked about on top of the show just on a golf trip. And let me tell you, was I the best golfer on the trip? Probably not. Is that the best dressed golfer, the most comfortable golfer on the trip? I absolutely was, because I'm wearing a rollback every day. The polos, the Q-zips, the hoodies. And I've been telling you guys, if you're not a golfer, polos, you still look nice out in a polo. The hoodies, Q-zips. I had some nice joggers, shorts. They got incredibly comfortable stuff. And right now, they're also starting to roll out their USA collection as we get closer to Memorial Day weekend in the summer. So if you're looking for some stars and stripes, and again, they got some bold designs with eagles, and they got some with Liberty Bell and stars. But if that's not for you and you want some nice stripes, just some nice blues, reds, different designs going on, Roback has you covered. Head over to roback.com, use promo code TWASPL15 to get yourself 15% off your order, as long as that email has not been used with them before. Go check them out. Again, the stuff's quality. I guarantee you will be liking it.
Yeah, I got a lot of praise as well for wearing that azalea shirt this weekend too. The polo azalea. I love that shirt. It feels so comfortable and it looks nice too. So I'll probably be getting another one at some point.
Joe, how's your shirt look?
We're on back order. We're on back order.
All right. Well, as always, Roback presents our ESB games, and we cycled through the game. So we're back to Trick of the Trade, which we opened up season 3 with. And this time around, it's going to be Corey and Tom leading the charge. So Corey, Favs, what do we got for our first trade on the Mets side of the house?
Yes, we got a little bit of a throwback trade going back to the late 70s. And this was a trade between the Mets and the Brewers. The Mets received 2 players in this deal, getting Greg Field and Jesse Orosco. Initially was a player to be named. Yep, the Twins, excuse me. My apologies. Jesse Orosco. Originally, it was a player to be named later. So this is one of those instances where the player to be named later played a critical role in winning a World Series. So love to see that. But who did the Mets ship in this trade back in 1979?
Our 3-strike system continues. Let's start the clock.
Kirby Puckett.
Not Kirby Puckett.
Was this the Kuzman trade?
This was the Kuzman trade, yes.
Very good.
Oh.
I know from Kuzman was a twin. That's why I know this one from.
Yep, I know this one too. Kuzman, I know when we did our all-time New York draft, came up in conversation and was drafted in our draft. So I figured this was a nice little throwback to Mr. Kuzman.
Good stuff here. Joe is on the board for the first time in the 2024 season.
I
Joe's
thought
first
I had one from the other week. I thought I got the last one last week.
We'll have to check the tape. We'll have to review the tape there, but I believe, Joe, this is your first point. So we'll see. But Thomas, you have the Yankees trade. Let's take a look what you have.
And ironically, there is a similar type trade, not as old, but the New York Yankees shipped this player and cash to Oakland for a player to be named later in 1997. And that player to be named later ended up being the MVP of the 1998 World Series, Scott Brocious. Who did the Yankees trade for Scott Brocious?
Restrike system. We're also not checking the chat. Tom, you want to monitor chat? And
yeah, I'm monitoring the chat. We did have a Kuzman guess.
We did. I saw that too. Yep.
Very nice.
I'm trying. So many Yankees A's trades.
Seems like once you get in with the team. No.
Strike. Trying to think of those like early 2000. I don't know. David Justice?
Not David Justice. The Yankees. That would be. Yankees would trade him in the 2000 season.
Gotcha.
2001 Moneyball.
Yeah. Mark Mulder again. I'm just shooting out guesses.
Not here. Mark Mulder. I will say this pitcher is a significant pitcher. He has a career WAR over 50.
Career WAR over 50. Oh, this is a big time arm.
This is a
Kenny Rogers.
I really should. I wouldn't have told you, but it is Kenny Rogers.
Oh, Kenny Rogers and Joe with the sweep. So Joe, I'll have to points from earlier before we enter, but I believe these are your first 2 points of the 2024 season.
Double check that.
Good on you, Joe, for pulling the Kenny Rogers deal. And it looks like we didn't have a correct guess in the chat. At least Swift tried to give it an Eric Chavez to try there. But yeah, Kenny Rogers headed in that deal back to Oakland. Yankees and A's have a history of trades, and that is one I honestly did not know. So thanks for the education, Tom. And another trick of the trade. Next week, guys, we'll be back, of course, as always, every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time for May 13th. This will be episode number 84. So hopefully you guys are back. And again, we want to thank you all for joining on another episode. We went a little past the bell here, but not so bad. A lot of fun. And as we start the thank you train, I want to start it off by thanking our guests from earlier for the first ever Creator Spotlight. And that's her clock still going off because I guess I'm still on the clock to do the thank you train. I want to shout out to Hector Beauchamp, of course, of Morning Brew Sports. Give him a follow at Morning Brew Sports. Subscribe, rather, on YouTube. Follow him at Brew Crew Sports and at Yanks Brew over on X. Hector does amazing work over there, and he does preach the message of growing together. He's definitely the epitome of it, and he's certainly one to follow. He did great work over with Dexter Henry over on SNY over the weekend. So shout out to Hector, and thank you once again for joining us. And thank you to all of you who joined. I think we're up to about like 45. I think, yeah, here's our highest amount now. I think 45. So thank you all to the 40 plus of you who did show up. I know there was a Knicks game going on, a Mets game going on. Thank you so much for your support. We'll throw it around the room the other way around. So Tom, Joe, and then Corey for the wrap. Take it away, fellas.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to Hector for joining, and thanks to have the whole crew back to the four. And I think we'll probably be. I'm sure we'll have some off days coming up, but good to see everyone back together.
Yeah, thank you to Hector for joining us. Thank you for the chat as always. Knicks Pacers tied at 66 at the moment, and the Mets are up 3-0 in the sixth. So let's go Mets, let's go Knicks.
Yeah, no, thank you again to Hector, and thank you to the Knicks and Rangers for making playoff sports a thing in New York once again. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in this week. We will be back as scheduled next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday night. Take care.